Here are the top stories for today, November 4, 2021. Easing commuter woes, the pilot run of the hiked public transport capacity in Metro Manila and neighboring areas starts today. Drivers can load passengers up to 70% of the total vehicle capacity. The government is not hitting the brakes in boosting pandemic response. The Health Department eyes to roll out COVID-19 vaccination for children under age 12 by next year. 100 public schools across the country are gearing up for the pilot run of face-to-face classes on November 15. The Department of Education says some 20 private schools are also joining the measure. And Save the Earth and the Kids Too, the United Nations calls for immediate action against the devastating effects of climate change, which affects some 1 billion children across the world. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. We start with a sigh of relief for drivers and commuters as the increased capacity in public transport takes effect today. What does this mean? It means in Metro Manila and nearby provinces, public utility vehicles are now allowed to carry up to 70% of their passenger capacity from its previous 50%. This means that coach-type buses with 2x2 seating arrangement are now allowed up to 34 passengers. 2x3 coach-type buses can now carry up to 43 passengers. 52-seater bus will carry 36 passengers. 39-seater bus will carry 27 passengers, and 35-seater bus will carry 24 passengers. And for modern jeepneys, 23-seaters will carry up to 15 passengers, while 19-seater will carry up to 13 passengers. For traditional jeepneys, 20-seater will carry 15 passengers and 14-seater will carry 11 passengers. For UV Express, 18-seater vans will carry 13 passengers and 16-seaters will carry 11 passengers. And in the railway sector, the LRT-1, LRT-2, MRT-3, and PNR also increased its passenger capacity from 30% to 70%. In addition, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has lifted the requirement for plastic barriers inside public utility jeepneys nationwide. Meanwhile, the no-standing policy on public transportation will still be implemented.
There was an initial recommendation just so that we'll be able to address the 70% passenger capacity na payagan yung standing. But during our technical coordination meeting po sa LTFRB, together with yung mga other, actually meron pong interagency meeting that we conducted. Kasama po yung MMDA, yung IAC, LTO, kung paano ipapatupad to. At nakita po natin na baka magdudulot ng kalituan kung meron pong nakatayo sa loob na makikita natin sa mga pampublikong sasakyan. At minarapat na lang po natin na i-reconfigure kung saan po pwedeng umupo sa loob ng pampublikong sasakyan so that we'll be able to commit to the increase in passenger capacity up to 70%.
The national government is keeping its goal to achieve population protection against COVID-19 before the year ends. From the initial target of 70%, it is now raised to at least 90% of the eligible population. The details from Marita Mawahe.
The Philippines is on track to achieve its target to inoculate up to 50% of the general population by year-end. President Rodrigo Duterte attributed the success of the government's intensified vaccination drive to the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines.
I'm happy to report that we exceeded our target of 55 million doses to be administered in October, primarily because the supply came in droves. Ibig sabihin, sige dating ang mga saawa ng Diyos, yung mga donations, pati yung binili natin, procured by government. I have reiterated my instructions to our agencies to make sure that our local government units will receive their daily job performance so that our country can reach the target of 1 million jobs or more every day.
National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said the government targets to administer at least 15 million doses of coronavirus vaccines for the whole month of November. To achieve this goal, Galvez said there is a need to activate around 4,000 to 5,000 vaccination sites operating nationwide.
We are planning to achieve 15 million doses administered before the end of the month. And then teachers, students, and school personnel are fully vaccinated, at least 90%. And we will target more on the teachers of the DepEd at saka po yung mga estudyante nila na nasa natawag natin na secondary. And then we will target also that health workers are fully vaccinated with boosters by end of the month. They then also achieve at least 70 fully vaccinated of our seniors.
As of Tuesday, a total of 60,406,424 COVID-19 vaccine shots have been administered nationwide. Of the number, more than 27,000 individuals have already been fully vaccinated, while over 32,000 have received the first dose. The National Capital Region has the highest number of fully vaccinated individuals at 88.13%, followed by the Cordillera Administrative Region at 39.37%. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
Pediatric vaccination for minors aged 12 to 17 years old is in full swing. The government aims to vaccinate over 12 million of the younger population group by the end of November. More of this from Janice Cabe.
In Balanga, Bataan, minors trooped to 2 inoculation centers during the rollout of a pediatric vaccination drive. These are in Bataan People Center and Luis Resort. Vaccination for the age group and other priority groups will go on until there is an available supply of the Moderna and Pfizer jabs. In Bulacan, at least 150 minors with comorbidities have received Pfizer and Moderna vaccines during the vaccination at the Hiyas ng Bulacan Convention Center. Most of the minors inoculated with COVID-19 vaccines have asthma. Governor Daniel Fernando cited the importance of vaccination for minors in preparation for the face-to-face classes next year. In Pampanga, the pediatric vaccination drive has been ongoing since yesterday at the City College of San Fernando. The move is part of the college's preparation for the possible conduct of limited face-to-face classes. School officials said almost 90% of the students signified their desire to be vaccinated. In Iloilo City, the first day of the rollout of inoculation for minors saw 3,537 vaccinees in 5 vaccination sites. No adverse effects have been recorded among those who received their first jab. The Iloilo City COVID team said they expect to vaccinate a minimum of 1,000 in each of the mega sites. And in San Juan City, over 8,000 children aged 12 to 17 years old were registered to the city government's vaccination drive. The city government targets to finish the first shots of minors until next week. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
In Zamboanga City, granular lockdown is being implemented to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. As of Monday, November 1, Zamboanga City posted a total of 21,030 confirmed cases of COVID-19 with 17,825 recoveries, 2,252 active cases, and 953 deaths. Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar says the battle against the deadly virus shifts from hospitals to households as she imposed strict granular lockdowns on households, compounds, or streets where there are positive cases. The Department of the Interior and local government also stressed the effectiveness of incorporating granular lockdowns with the alert level system in containing the COVID-19 transmission.
Sa ating pinapatupad na granular lockdown sa buong bansa, mula sa 50 cities at 283 barangays, makikita po natin na 423 lang naman ang under ng granular lockdown all over the country. At more or less about 7,232 households ang apektado. Sa Metro Manila po ay nakikita natin na 47 na lang ang under ng granular lockdown. Makikita po natin na very effective ang ating ginagawa na granular lockdown alongside sa ating bagong alert level system. ito na rin po ay dala dahil sa epektibo talaga ang ating pagbabakuna.
Moreover, an investigation is underway over the fire incident at the Provincial Government Center in Pagadian City. Some 148,678 doses of COVID-19 vaccines were destroyed in the fire that started at the maintenance department of the Zamboanga del Sur Medical Center.
Atin din pong iimbestigahan ang naganap na sunog sa Zamboanga Sur Provincial Health Office. Kasama po ang DOH, PNP at Bureau of Fire Protection. Titingnan po natin kung ano ang mga pagkukulang at nasayang ang more or less about 148,000 na vaccine. At dapat ang insidente na to ay maging wake up sa ating mga local chief executives na dapat ibantayan ng gusto ang ating mga bakuna at dapat ito ay maituro kagad sa ating mga kababayan.
Israel is now accepting Filipino and other foreign tourists as long as they are fully vaccinated. Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Ilan Flus, said tourists may travel to Israel individually or as a group as long as they present a negative RT-PCR test result taken 72 hours before departure and another swab upon arrival at the airport. After the test, the tourist will undergo mandatory quarantine until the results are out. Only foreigners who had been vaccinated with Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Sinovac, and Sinopharm will be allowed. Still to come, the nationwide rollout of driver's license with a 10-year validity is seen to roll out in December. And the Anti-Red Tape Authority calls on PhilHealth to release the payment for claims within 60 days. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective. I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. More and more workers continuously receive aid from the government as the Labor Department expands its Tupad program. The public employment program, which was initially set for 15 to 60 days, is now extended up to 90 days. Among the jobs being offered are street sweeping and cleaning of public facilities, tree planting, crop growing and vegetable farming, declogging of canals, waste management, delivery of relief goods, and posting of information and educational materials, among others. On the other hand, contact tracers are hired for 90 days in a bid to locate and isolate the infected individuals. The Land Transportation Office has promised to start the nationwide issuance of driver's licenses with 10-year validity by December this year. President Rodrigo Duterte made the announcement in his pre-recorded Talk to the People aired Tuesday morning. The LTO began rolling out the new driver's license that is valid for 10 years in its licensing offices in Quezon City on October 28. The LTO branches in Metro Manila followed suit this month. In August 2017, Duterte inked Republic Act 10930, which extends the validity period of licenses from 5 to 10 years from the previous 3 years for drivers with no violations. Duterte said it would be hassle-free for motorists to secure a driver's license in the country. The Department of Education has completed the 100 public schools that will participate in the pilot implementation of limited face-to-face classes beginning November 15. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said they will start face-to-face classes with 100 public schools, 20 private schools, and a number of international schools which have their own policies. Briones noted the DepEd is still in the process of completing the list of 20 private schools to implement the limited in-person classes. These selected private schools will open classes on November 22nd. Briones said participating schools must undergo risk assessment, comply with public health standards, and secure consent from their respective local government units and parents of their learners. Meanwhile, the DepEd assures that it continues to provide connectivity assistance to public school teachers in their blended learning setup for school year 2021 to 2022. The department has distributed SIM cards with 34 gigabyte connectivity load per month. The DepEd said the 1 gigabyte per day load for 30 days is enough to access e-learning and whitelisted for zero-rated DepEd applications. The DepEd has been requesting the Commission on Audit or COA and the Department of Budget and Management in 2020 for the possibility of granting internet allowance in cash, which will require almost 18 billion pesos in public funds. The Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, said the officials of University of the Philippines, Diliman, should respect how other higher education institutions run their campuses amid the decision to remove books donated by communist terrorist groups from their libraries. The UP Diliman office of the Chancellor condemned the removal of CTG-donated materials from some state universities, saying the move contradicts the mission of universities to teach and research freely. CHED Chair J. Prospero de Vera III, however, said such action is a practice of academic freedom which UP Diliman officials should respect. He said higher education institutions are reminded to welcome the decisions of other HEIs in the spirit of mutual respect and proper governance. Several HEIs nationwide, such as the Kalinga State University, Isabela State University, and Aklan State University, pulled out reading materials from communist terrorist groups. Meanwhile, the Department of Education in Region 12 has strengthened its indigenous people's education program to help counter the influence of the communist-led New People's Army. Among the program's focal areas are IP schools in General Santos City and Sarangani Province, especially those in remote areas. In Sarangani, some 180 of the 320 public schools in the area are serving over 60,000 IP learners. Hundreds of IPs from parts of the region who were recruited to join the NPA have surrendered to government authorities in the past several years. Some of them admitted to being lured into joining the communist terrorist group due to the lack of proper education and false promises from its leaders. The National Housing Authority is offering low-cost housing units in Pangasinan to government employees and civilians. Among the available housing units are at Pilgrim Heights residences in Manaoag, which will be offered to personnel of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, Coast Guard, and Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, among others. Each house and lot unit is worth 1.9 million pesos that can be availed of through Pag-ibig Fund or NHA. Another housing project is at Pangasinanville with 700 units available. It was recently opened to local government employees of Urdaneta City. Other projects are in Manibok, Lingayen that was availed of by the provincial government employees, as well as Camp Greg in Bayambang Town and Kawayan Hills in Sual. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, has called on PhilHealth to follow its own charter of releasing claims within 60 days. In a radio interview, ARTA Director General Jeremiah Belhica criticized PhilHealth's medical repayment preview, which he said had become a bottleneck in payment disbursement to hospitals. Earlier, ARTA recommended to PhilHealth to disburse at least 60% of the total claims as initial payment, then continue with the medical review. But Belhica said ARTA has also suggested repealing the medical review since the diagnosis submitted to the agency were done by doctors and specialists. On Tuesday, ARTA served a show cause order against 2 officials of PhilHealth Region 6 due to delays in the disbursement of payment to 7 hospitals in Iloilo. The total claims of the hospitals reached over 690 million pesos. More stories from the newsroom. Over 2.4 million Ilocanos sign up for Step 2 registration of the national ID. And hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, the UNICEF calls for action against climate change and its effect on some 1 billion children. Back after a quick break. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Hi everyone, James Deacon here. The COVID-19 vaccines are finally here, and the government wants to make sure the vaccines reach us. So let's do our part by making sure that we get registered to be included in the vaccination list of our LGU. You can register right in the comfort and safety of your own homes through your LGU's online registration platform. And you can also register on-site in the vaccination venues or through your barangay. Remember, getting vaccinated is the first step towards ending this pandemic. So let's do our part as disciplined citizens. Bida ang may disiplina. Magpakarehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
Commander Duterte Ocampo po ng Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary para sa kumpanyang Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Bakit natin kailangan magpabakuna laban sa COVID-19? Dahil mahal mo ang iyong sarili, pamilya at bayan. Ang bakuna ang tiyak na paraan para tuluyang mapigilan ang pagkalat ng virus. May mga patunay na mababa ang porsyento ng pagkalat ng COVID-19 sa mga nabakunahan na. At matapos mabakunahan, malaki na ang tsansa na makabalik ka sa normal mong pamumuhay. Kaya tulad ko magparehistro na at magpabakuna na kontra COVID-19. Muli po, ako si Commander Duterte Ocampo, Disiplina Muna Ambassador. Nagpapaalala, huwag matakot magpabakuna dahil bida ang may disiplina. Magparehistro tayo at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
Despite the appeal of Mayor Sara Duterte to her supporters to cancel their planned caravan from November 4 to 15, the Sara All Philippines 2022 conveners pushed through as planned. Barangay 23-T Chairman Alimuddin Usman, the campaign convener, said they are meeting with other supporters in the Cotabato area. He said their group is voluntarily supporting Sara's campaign without any compensation or financial assistance from the administration. He said they will push through no matter what, adding it is for the interest and for the good of the Filipinos. Duterte earlier appealed to her supporters to cancel their planned caravan. The Sara All Philippines group has been pushing for Sara to run for president despite her announcement since September 10 that she is running for her last term as mayor of Davao City. Lanao del Sur is having its first ever solar-powered irrigation system through the efforts of Task Force Bangon Marawi and the Bangsamoro local government. Claire Gighe has the story.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform or MAFAR and the Task Force Bangon Marawi or TFBM completed the first ever solar-powered irrigation system in the province of Lanao del Sur, which now brings benefit to farmers in the municipalities of Butig and Sultan Dumalundong. Through the 10 million peso fund from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management, Marawi Recovery, Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Program, the 660 cubic meter project is seen to supply up to 50 to 70 hectares of agricultural land in Barangay Kabasaran in Butig and Barangay Sumalindaw and Melalis in Sultan Dumalundong.
So, nandito po kami sa Paris, pinakamalayo na barangay ninyo as a manifestation na hindi po problema sa MAPAR yung hardship ng daanan. Basta ipaparating namin sa community ng Bangsamoro yung serbisyo ng Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian.
The irrigation system, which has its own solar panel with 20 horsepower, can save up to 3.5 cubic meter of water per minute and can operate even if it is not too sunny.
Itong project natin sana maging model at maging successful para masasabi na natin na meron tayong project na ipakita na naging maganda na yung pamumuhay na mga tao dito sa Butig.
Among the benefiting villages, Barangay Kabasaran in the municipality of Butig is the farthest community wherein roads are not paved, making it hard to receive projects. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
Some 2.4 million individuals in the Ilocos region have registered for Step 2 of the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys, as of October 27. The Philippine Statistics Authority said the largest number was from Pangasinan at 1.45 million. Ilocos Norte is now at 82% of its target, Ilocos Sur at 79%, La Union at 72%, and Pangasinan at 62%. The finished PhilSys cards will be delivered as usual by the Philippine Postal Corporation. Meantime, the PhilSys registration Step 2 for minors 5 to 14 years old is now ongoing in the different localities in the region. Frontliners from various local government units in South Cotabato will take center stage in this year's Tourism Adventure Race on November 11. The South Cotabato Arts, Culture, Tourism and Museum Unit said final preparations are underway for the Race to 11 Eco Challenge. This year's event has been expanded and renamed to include the tourist attractions of the province's 10 towns and Lone City. 11 teams have signed up for the race, which will start in Polomolok town and end in its birthplace in Lake Cebu. The race will feature challenges that will have to be complied by the teams when passing each locality. Rodel Hilado, head of the Association of Tourism Officers of South Cotabato, said they are hoping that the event will help usher in more major tourism events in the province amid the continuing pandemic. In our news overseas, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, said around 1 billion children worldwide are at extremely high risk from the consequences of climate change. At the UN Climate Conference in Glasgow, Scotland, UNICEF Senior Advisor Gautam Narasimhan said 2/3 of the country's climate plans don't address the needs and priorities of children. Of the 103 country plans for climate change, UNICEF considers just 35 of them to be child-sensitive. He said that in August, UNICEF's Children's Climate Risk Index revealed that 99% of the world's 2.2 billion children are exposed to at least one environmental threat. These include heat waves, cyclones, flooding, drought, vector-borne diseases, air pollution, and lead poisoning. Narasimhan urged a response to the climate crisis with the interests of children at the center and implored governments to boost investment in climate adaptation and resilience. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Easing commuter woes, the pilot run of the hiked public transport capacity in Metro Manila and neighboring areas starts today. Drivers can load passengers up to 70% of the total vehicle capacity. The government is not hitting the brakes in boosting pandemic response. The Health Department eyes to roll out COVID-19 vaccination for children under age 12 by next year. 100 public schools across the country are gearing up for the pilot run of face-to-face classes on November 15. The Department of Education says some 20 private schools are also joining the measure. And Save the Earth and the Kids Too, the United Nations calls for immediate action against the devastating effects of climate change, which affects some 1 billion children across the world. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And it is exactly 51 days more to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone.